What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Living Mad channel, where I talk to you all about how I'm living my American dream. So today, I want to talk to you about second chances. But first, I want you to watch this little clip from The Walking Dead. If you haven't seen the show, it's an awesome show. Definitely recommend that you watch it. Enjoy.
Look around you, Gabriel. Look what people did to the world. And you think we can be good? You think we deserve a second chance?
Do we deserve a second chance? I don't know. But sometimes we get one anyway.
So when I was watching that episode and I heard that line, it made me think about my own life and my own experiences going through divorce. And I remember thinking after my divorce, do I deserve a second chance? Do I deserve to get married again? Do I deserve anything? And so there's a couple things that I want to talk to you about that I kind of went through after my divorce. Some of the things that I had to learn and kind of the outcome of some of those things. So the first thing that I had to learn is that failing at love does not mean that I'm not worthy of love. A lot of times, especially shortly after the divorce, I felt like a failure. I kept feeling like there's no chance for me to ever find the kind of relationship, the kind of marriage that I wanted. And so I had to do a lot of reflecting on that, on what is it that caused the divorce, what did I do wrong, what could I have done better, a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I had to accept that, yes, that marriage ended. It was not ideal. It is not definitely not something that either of us wanted when we went into the relationship. But just because we failed, just because that marriage didn't last forever as we wanted, doesn't mean that I didn't deserve the chance to try to find love again, to try to marry again. Some people get divorced and they think, this wasn't for me. I'm never going to get married again. And if that's you and that's what you really want and you feel like, hey, being single or just having kids on your own, that's what you want, that's great. But for me and for other people like me, even after my divorce, even after that failed, I knew that I wanted to get married again. I knew that that's something I wanted in my life. Now, I had to learn to accept, to be on my own and learn how to love myself and stuff like that. But I knew that eventually I would want to get married again. But to do that, again, I had to come to terms with the fact that I am worthy of it. I am somebody who deserves a happy marriage. The other thing I had to learn was learn to love myself. And that kind of ties into the first one. I can't accept that I'm worthy of love, that I'm worthy of having a happy marriage, if I can't learn to love myself. Now, again, there was things after my divorce that I kept punishing myself for or doubting myself and kind of putting myself down of, oh, I wish I would have done this different, or I wish that could have been different. And so by thinking like that, I was basically hating on myself, just saying, I'm not someone who is going to have a happy marriage because of A, B, and C. So I had to learn, first of all, to recognize some of the things that, yes, I could have done better in my marriage to help make things better, and try to work to develop those to a point where it wouldn't cause an issue if I ever got in a relationship again. So, yes, there were some things that I had to change to try to be better, but there were other things that I also had to accept as who I am. I don't need to necessarily completely change who I am just to try to make someone else happy. Yes, there may be some things I want to change, but there may be some things that I don't want to change. And if once I decide what those things are, which ones I'm going to change, which ones I'm going to keep, I have to be happy with that decision. I have to be happy with the person that makes me. Once I'm happy with that and I'm comfortable with those decisions, I can start to accept myself and I can love myself. The other thing I had to learn is I had to learn how to be more open with others, especially those that I love, so family and friends, people that are close to me. Because as I was going through my marriage and some of the struggles that we faced here and there, I was not sharing those situations with anybody. And I'm not saying you should, go out and talk to everybody and their mother about what goes on in your relationship. What goes on in your relationship should be very sacred, and you should be very careful who you share it with. However, if you have a best friend, a close family member, like maybe your parents or a sibling, somebody who's very close to you, who knows you very well, maybe you've known each other for a long time, it's good to be able to talk to those people about what's going on in your life. A therapist, a counselor, a chaplain, a priest. It's good to talk to those people because they're going to have an outside perspective, sometimes a little bit more objective than your own opinion. And I say sometimes because if it's a close family member or friend, they might be a little bit biased where they want to be on your side, right? But it's still valuable to get that perspective. And even if it's not about perspective or advice or anything like that, sometimes it's just good to vent. And as you talk and you vent, sometimes maybe you can start to figure things out for yourself. But I never did that. I tried to handle everything on my own, and I didn't really start talking about some of that stuff until it was too late, until I was divorced. So I had to learn how to recognize that pattern again in the future to try to avoid those same mistakes. I also had to learn how to connect with my son, but in a whole new way. Because now, when my divorce first started and got moved to Japan, my son stayed with his mom in the US. And so it was extremely difficult between the time difference, the distance. I couldn't see him as much. Trying to talk to him with the time difference was difficult. So I had to find ways to still connect with him to try to maintain that relationship. Now, I will tell you, that was probably the hardest thing that I went through, is trying to maintain that relationship with my son after my divorce. And there were many nights where I couldn't sleep. I was crying. I was depressed, just missing him and feeling that detachment. Him as he was only 9 years old when it happened. He got filled with a lot of anger. A lot of times he wouldn't answer my calls. He wouldn't text me whenever I would text him. And there was just a lot of negative emotions all around. So that made it very difficult, but I still had to find ways to try to keep that momentum going, or build momentum and then keep it going to try to maintain a relationship with him. And it was difficult. It took a lot of trial and error, a lot of effort on my part to just keep going, keep going. But again, there were things that, over time I learned. If I hadn't done that, I don't know what our relationship would be like now. This is 8 years later. So that was definitely a big one. And I would say one of the most important things that I had to learn after my divorce was I learning to recognize or learning to assess, kind of figuring out for myself what kind of relationship do I want. If I'm going to get married again, which like I said, it's something that I wanted, I didn't want to rush into a marriage right away. I knew that would be a bad idea because I wasn't in the right mental, emotional place to get married again right away. But I knew I wanted to do it again. But if I was going to do that again, I needed to figure out, okay, what kind of relationship do I want? What kind of woman am I looking for? What are the characteristics, traits, personal qualities, things that I'm looking for in a woman that are going to align with the kind of person that I am and everything. And that was hard because I will tell you, you can make a list of 1,000 different things that you're looking for. But first of all, you're never going to find somebody that meets every single one of those wickets on your list. That's probably impossible unless you build a little robot that can meet all those qualities. And secondly, no matter how hard you try, how much time you spend on this list, you're never going to think of every single little thing that is going to be important to you in a relationship. Because the thing is, real life is not that simple. People are not just a list of traits. No matter how long this list is, you cannot exhaust every single little thing about a person. So you're going to get in a relationship and find that there's things that don't match your list. And maybe that sucks because it's something you really wanted. But then you're also going to find that there are things that are not on your list that are really good that person has. And you didn't even realize it was something that you prioritized or it's something that was important to you. So yes, figure out who it is that you want, what kind of person you want to be with. But understand that that's only a basis, a starting line for the kind of person that you want. However, even though you may not find the person that exactly fits that mold, it's good to think about it so that you have an idea of what kind of person you're looking for and you don't start relationships with people that are going to be so far out, so far off base from where you want to be that you end up in a toxic relationship or an unhappy relationship, whatever the case may be, simply because you didn't take the time to think about it. All right, and so those are 5 things that I learned from my divorce to help create a second chance for me, to give me a better opportunity at having a happy second marriage. Now, here's the thing you got to understand about all this, right? Free will is crazy. We were created to have free will. And because we have free will, We're going to make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. That's just a part of being a human. None of us are going to be infallible to where we have our entire lives without making a bad choice. That's going to happen. However, your mistakes don't define you. Having a failed relationship, being a divorcee, does not define you. Yes, I say I'm a divorcee, and that's a part of who I am now. That's part of my identity. But that's not the only part of me. There is so much more to me. So it doesn't define me. This one thing does not define me. And even as I said, it's hard, right? Because I still feel some of the emotions of having divorced, of losing that part of my life, of losing that aspect of my family. So it still hurts to say it, but I don't want it to completely define me. It is one mistake. It is one part of my life that maybe didn't work out exactly as I wanted, but there's still so much more to me, so much more to my life. The other thing is you have to make an effort to take every opportunity to make things better for yourself and whoever your future partner is. Every day is an opportunity to be better. So don't get stuck in the fact that you failed the first time, that maybe you were a bad partner, a bad this, bad that. Don't get stuck in that. Every day is an opportunity to do better. But you have to take action. You have to be conscious of every decision that you make to try to be a better person. None of us are ever going to be perfect. So don't get caught up on that idea. Some things you see on TV and the perfect mother, the perfect father, the perfect husband and wife, like all these things. None of us are ever going to be perfect, okay? So let's just get over that right now. But we can try to be better each and every day, just a little bit better. Now, we're talking about second chances, right? And I think most of us deserve a second chance. But there's going to be some of us that second chance is not going to be enough. Some of us are going to need a third, fourth, fifth chance. Now, that's not ideal. I don't want any of you or me to have a third, fourth, fifth marriage. I know I dread the idea of being a second-time divorcee. It scares the bejesus out of me. But I also realize that for some people, that's necessary. Some people will jump into a second marriage before they're ready, or they'll think they're ready after much time alone and still have problems and end up divorced a second time, third time. That happens. And although I've never been through that, I'd like to believe that if that were to happen to me, I would try to take the lessons I've learned from my first one to try to, again, be better each day. God forbid that I get divorced a second time. That's one of my biggest fears. But if it does happen, I'm hoping I can deal with it better than the first time. So if that's you, if you're on your third divorce or third marriage and afraid of another divorce, accept the fact that, again, these mistakes don't define you. Now, I'm not saying, just keep going from one marriage to another or from one mistake to another. No, you should try to learn from each and every single mistake that you make to try to avoid it the next time. But for some of us, it takes a little bit longer. So some of us will need that third, fourth, fifth chance. And if you're on the other side, trying to figure out who deserves chances, be careful of judging people for their past mistakes. So if you're dating somebody and they've been divorced 2 times, don't automatically assume that they're a bad person. At the same time, don't be too quick to jump into relationships with people without getting to know them first, right? But once you get to know them and you see they're a good person, some people deserve that third, fourth chance because life is hard. And no matter how good we try to be, sometimes things just don't work out. We all like to think that if we do everything right and we're good people, that things will just automatically work out. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes things will just fall apart regardless of what you do. And you're going to have to accept that. So to accept that for yourself and accept that from others. All right, guys. Hopefully you got something out of this video. If you like what you see, hit that like button so other people know that it's out there. If you want to see more, subscribe so you know when the next video is uploaded. See you in the next one. Deuces.